Hello and welcome. My name is Eric Davis, Executive Director of TV Santa Barbara, and we have another episode of 805 Inspires. I am excited and happy to welcome Dacia Harwood, the Deputy Director of the Santa Barbara Historical Museum. Welcome, Dacia.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so with this 805 Inspires series, we've been looking at museums and gardens and taking the historical elements of Santa Barbara. So why don't you tell our audience, what is the Santa Barbara Historical Museum?
Sure. So Santa Barbara Historical Museum is located in the heart of downtown. We encompass all areas of Santa Barbara history. We showcase artifacts such as art, costume, saddles, you name it. We basically collect and preserve and showcase all areas of Santa Barbara history.
And it's a fascinating history of the museum itself. What were the origins of the development of the museum?
Thank you. Yeah, the museum was founded in 1932, and the original location was actually at Mission Santa Barbara. And we moved around a few times. We moved over to a little adobe on East Montecito Street, and then to our current and final home in 1966 on De La Guerra. And that was built at the time on El Recinto Stanwood. Sam Stanwood, as you know, was the second and most prolific presidente of old Spanish days. And the spot there on De La Guerra had been a staging ground for the historical parade.
Really? Mm-hmm. I did not know that. It's a beautiful property, incredible grounds. Was it always kind of in that composition with the courtyard?
Thank you. We love it. It's so beautiful. The two adobes that are there, there's one, the Covarrubias Adobe, was built in 1817. It is one of the oldest Spanish era homes in Santa Barbara. And then the historic adobe was actually built in the 1860s in a different location up on State Street, and it was moved brick by brick to the location of the museum in the 1920s.
Wow. We began this series when the pandemic hit. To kind of bring a spotlight, a showcase. How did the pandemic affect the museum and kind of your efforts? And what was that moment when you kind of learned, something's going on?
I think like all nonprofits, we had to pivot pretty quickly. I mean, our first goal is to continue to connect the community with Santa Barbara history. So the first thing that we actually did is we filmed a virtual activity that would have been given by a docent to our local school children. We get quite a few second, third, and fourth graders coming to the museum to learn about local history. So the very first thing that we did was actually to film a lesson and then make that available to our local teachers and to parents online. We then pivoted to a lot of other fun activities online, such as making our publications. We digitized our publications. We digitized a huge amount of our collections just to be able to share them with our with the people that would normally visit. So we made a lot of our artwork and costume and various artifacts available to view online. And then very importantly, we moved our lecture series online. Yeah. And so since the pandemic started, we actually have hosted over 25 lectures and had over 5,000 attendees to our series, aptly named History Happy Hour at Home. And really, it was a pivot from a very successful lecture series that happened both at the museum and in local tasting rooms, and we moved it to Zoom.
And these were happening every Wednesdays, right?
Just about, yeah, at least a couple of times a month, and we had some wonderful collaborations. We collaborated with Goleta Valley Historical Society, South Coast Railroad Museum, the Courthouse Legacy Foundation, and other wonderful nonprofits, just to share more of the history and connect more history enthusiasts in our town.
And if people wanted to take in these lecture series, are they available? And where could they learn more about these museums?
They are. So our website is sbhistorical.org, and just click on the link that says History Happy Hour, and you can see all of the past lectures are on there, including some that TVSB has filmed in the past at the museum, but all of our Zoom lectures are on there as well.
I want to get into kind of what you've got planned for the summer, because we're filming this as we're opening,
sure.
Up here, but take it back. I just love the museum personally. It's just filled with all these incredible artifacts, collections. How did you go about gathering all the treasures that you have?
That's such a good question. I mean, from like all museums, the Historical Society was formed by a group of dedicated history-minded individuals who really started gifting their own materials, historical materials, to the museum. As you know, the museum has a very active research library,
Yes.
so that's a great example. We have maps, documents, hundreds of thousands of photos, all there so that our local historians and researchers and students and far beyond can find them. And so the same thing was definitely created when the museum was founded.
You're being, well, it's much more than that. I mean, those archives are just incredible.
They
Paper
are.
clippings, you can find every address, everything's there.
You can.
I love going into that, is it the
Absolutely.
Glen Hill Library and just
Yeah, we love the
kind
Glen
of
Library.
searching through all those treasures.
I think one of the for me, the most meaningful things about connecting our community with Santa Barbara history is what you're looking for. So, for example, you might be there looking for family history. You might live in just a really fabulous historic home and you want to know the history of it. When you walk down State Street and recognize some of the buildings, maybe you just want to know more. Our whole goal is to make you appreciate more of Santa Barbara when you're out in the community. That's really what a visit to the museum should be. It should make you appreciate the history of Old Spanish days. It should make you appreciate the incredible history of the Chumash community here in Santa Barbara. There's just so much about it that that lends itself to really going forth and really appreciating it. But you're right, the museum's collection is certainly very diverse, and we try to showcase the diversity of the collection on a regular basis. We've exhibited saddles and costumes and artwork and photos and just all sorts of wonderful treasures that are in our subterranean vault there at the museum. We have hundreds of thousands of artifacts that are preserved in perpetuity as a result of the museum and the generosity of our patrons, really.
You mentioned the vault. Tell me about that.
The vault is a lot of fun. We've been working on some of the storage systems in the vault, which has been really exciting. That was a really fun activity for our staff during the pandemic, was to really get in there and explore more of what we have and get it just a little bit more organized. Thanks to the generosity of several patrons, we were able to do that. I'll take you down there sometime, Eric.
I would
But
love to see it.
basically, you can see we have an entire room that is just dedicated to the archive, another room entirely dedicated to our art collection, which is thousands of works. We have a few prep rooms, so actually spaces where items are conserved or put on exhibit. Mannequins are dressed, furniture, and all sorts of wonderful items. And then we have over 5,000 pieces in our textile collection.
And paintings and
Absolutely.
costumes and just everything from the history of Santa Barbara. I would love.
Absolutely.
And is it on premise?
It is. It's below the main museum.
Wow.
Yeah.
And in normal times, the museum is filled with a kind of a set exhibit and then a changing exhibit layout. Is that correct?
That's correct. So right now we have 2 rotating exhibits. They change usually anywhere between every 3 to 6 months. This has obviously not been a normal year in that regard. But if you were to visit the museum today, you would see the works of Henry Chapman Ford, who was really the first major artist to settle here in Santa Barbara. And the exhibition of his work is kind of inspiring in that it's very much a tribute to nature and the beautiful hills and valleys and ocean in Santa Barbara. So I really encourage everyone to see it. And then secondarily, we have an exhibition called Queen on the Hill, and it's celebrating Mission Santa Barbara's 200-year anniversary of the dedication of the Mission Church.
That's right.
It is a collection of photos, drawings, paintings, with the only requirement that the subject matter be Mission Santa Barbara. And so for us, it's a nice opportunity to show some lesser known artists in our collection and see some really intriguing photos. I mean, the mission following the 1925 quake, for example, it's a very intriguing exhibition, and I think aptly set up now for with Old Spanish Days coming up as well. It is available to see entirely in person or online. So
Really?
we are saying that it's our first and most accessible, entirely accessible exhibition. So we would really love for people to come and visit it in person, but if you're not quite ready to go to a museum yet, you can see it entirely online.
And one way to support the museum is through a membership, I would imagine.
Absolutely, and we're so grateful. We have over 1,000 members that have been supporting and sustaining the museum, particularly this year. They're the first to hear about the events that we're doing both virtually and in person again, and they really support our everyday operations and make what we do possible.
And I got an email this morning that's saying you're having a history happy hour in person in that beautiful courtyard. So we're getting to that in-person phase as we reach summer.
We are. We have what we're releasing is a hybrid schedule. So we will continue to do both virtual programming and also now lectures in our courtyard. So we're moving everybody outside. We would normally host our lectures inside, and I think this will be a nice transition, make everyone feel comfortable, and our courtyard is beautiful, as you know.
Stunning.
And so I think it'll be really nice. We'll have socially distant tables that people will be able to sit at. They'll be able to drink wine and enjoy a lively talk, in this case by Neil Graffey.
And that kind of opens the door. I know you pretty well, and you probably got some exciting things planned coming up.
We do. We've got well, first of all, we've got a few virtual talks as well. In July, Aaron Graffey will be at the museum talking about the history of Fiesta posters, which I think will be really interesting. I mean, really since 1924, artists have come in and created these really magnificent works. You have some experience with that, Eric.
I do, having created last year's version.
Absolutely.
And the little story is that the artist I was working with spent a lot of time at the Glen Hill Library looking through, and one of his inspirations was, I think, a 1940s postcard from Santa Barbara that he found searching through your collections. He spent a lot of hours there. He really dug in, and he loved it.
I love that. I saw him there quite a few times, and so I'm so impressed that you did so much research. So that talk about Fiesta posters will be happening both online and then in person. So
I'll be there for that.
The in-person version will have margaritas, and online you'll have to make your own.
I love it.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
And then the week after that, so the last week of July, we'll be hosting a flamenco show. It'll be a ticketed show in our courtyard.
Wow.
We won't be hosting our signature fundraiser, La Fiesta del Museo, but this is a new tradition that we're starting called Tabla Museo, which you'll get to enjoy some of the wonderful artists from LA and Spain right there in our courtyard underneath the stars. So we hope it gets everyone in the mood to celebrate Fiesta.
I signed up for your newsletters, but if people wanted to learn more about all the upcoming events, what's the best way to?
Probably the best is on our website. You can sign up for our e-newsletter at sbhistorical.org. And so that's what I would recommend, or pop by the museum and we'll sign you up.
So a lot of museums, I'm just amazed at the pivots they made. And, they had a lot of archives and materials that they made public, lessons for kids. It just really sparkled. Were there any particular moments that you're really proud of over the last year that came forward?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm just really, really proud that our staff and our incredibly dedicated trustees came together to just make last year really successful in so many ways. We would normally rely on rental income from blissful weddings and fundraisers and corporate events and things like that, and none of those things were happening. And so we really just pulled it together and had a really successful year in the end. We were able to complete quite a few projects in and around the museum, and particularly, like you mentioned, with regard to virtual programming, we actually created virtual tours of all of our exhibitions, in addition to the virtual lessons for kids. And we were able to really actually upgrade some of our spaces just during this time as well. So I'm really proud of that as well.
That's wonderful, and I would assume that some of this is here to stay. You're reaching people not only just in Santa Barbara in person. You're able to bring your series and your mission.
Yeah. Absolutely, I think so. We have we're doing virtual visits now. My staff is actually back at the museum hosting a virtual lesson, actually for my son's third grade class today, which is kind of fun. And he was really excited to come and see the museum in person, but he's also really excited to be in the classroom hearing from our the Santa Barbara Historical Museum docents today as well. So I think I think that there will be a lot of things that are here to stay, and I feel like our reach has really widened in the last year. I mean, just with the amount of people who have not only subscribed to our newsletter, but have participated in all of our virtual learning opportunities, it's really widened our reach quite a bit.
A couple of final questions while we have you here, and thank you again for joining us. Was there a particular treasure or discovery you made as you were going through the vault or doing that work?
My crew gets to have the most fun looking through those things, but I will tell you, we did find some interesting items. We found a small box of drawings that I think will be really interesting, and I'm not going to release any more information about it other than that. But certainly, while we've been going through the collections, we're always finding things, and it's just a really fun experience to not only work for the museum, but also to be able to share the interesting things that we come across every day.
And you normally do a great exhibit around Fiesta. It's always creative, it's unique, it's historical. Anything planned this year?
We do, yeah. So as you know, last year we pivoted and we did an outdoor exhibition of Project Fiesta,
Beautiful.
A history of old Spanish days, which was such a fun challenge. We brought in a carriage and replicated quite a few really interesting old posters, things like that we could safely exhibit outside. This year, as you probably know, there won't be a historical parade. And so what the museum is doing is we are doing an exhibition about the parade. And so when you walk into the museum, you will actually hopefully feel as though you're at the parade.
One of my favorite videos I've seen you produce is the early 1924 and 1926 parade. So you archive a lot of video too.
We do, absolutely. And in fact, we're actually looking for more right now. So we have, as you mentioned, 24 and 26. We also have footage from the 1930s and 40s, but you know what? We've got a lot of holes out there. So if anyone is sitting on some fabulous home footage at home, we would be really interested in it.
Yeah, we kind of dug into the archiving process too, looking for some of that old footage.
Absolutely, but it's such a treasure to have, footage from the first.
It's amazing.
I mean, it's amazing.
Just the buildings, just the crowds. It was a different look and feel in 24, especially.
It certainly was. It was, but then there are so many things that are the same, which I think is so fun. I mean, even just in the clothing that they wore. We have Dwight Murphy and Sam Stanwood's costumes from the first parade, right? And you can see them on film, and then you can also see them at the museum, and they look very similar to something that you might wear today. And so it's so fun to see just how much is the same in a way. And of course, things have to change, but it's nice to see those things as well.
Well, thank you for all you do. If you could tell the audience, what is your kind of elevator pitch? What would you want them to know about the Historical Museum, past and present, and kind of where you're going?
That's a great question. I mean, our mission is to connect this community with Santa Barbara history, and we just really want to make sure that that they feel not only connected to it, but that it feels relevant to them in their daily lives. And please just come and visit the museum. Come and explore our exhibitions, explore our programming, take a look at our website, come and research in our library. The museum is open for everyone, all ages, and just come on back.
Well, thank you, Dacia. That was a fascinating look into the Santa Barbara Historical Museum. We're joined now by a special guest, Michael Redman, historian for the Santa Barbara Historical Museum. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit, I got a little bit from Dacia, but what's the history behind the Santa Barbara Historical Museum, the origin story there?
Well, the museum was founded as the Santa Barbara Historical Society in 1932, and then was incorporated in the early 40s. The museum society, now the museum, has had various homes through the years, including a few rooms in the Santa Barbara County Courthouse. For a while, we were housed up at the Santa Barbara Mission, and we also, for the very early years, were housed in the Trussell Winchester Adobe down on Montecito Street. So you can imagine the excitement when we were able to move into this fine, very large museum building here on De La Guerra Street in 1965.
Yeah, it's a beautiful facility and museum. One of the things that I used to like doing, and still do, is taking a look at the Glen Hill Library, and that's where you spend most of your time as a historian, correct?
Yeah, I'm semi-retired now, but I started working at the museum in 1981, and soon thereafter I was asked to become the librarian in the Glen Hill Library. I think most people would be surprised that given that, we're not a huge institution, I think people would be surprised with the richness and variety of the collections that we have to offer in the Glen Hill Library. In addition to books, because of course we are a library, we have a very extensive photographic collection. I would say between the photographic prints, we have over 10,000 glass plate negatives. We have 35 millimeter slides. We have a very, very large collection of Santa Barbara postcards. So in total, we probably number somewhere around 100,000 images, primarily, of course, of the Santa Barbara area. It's a very rich collection.
And how do you go about, how did the museum go about obtaining these collections?
Well, we always have feelers out, but by and large, it's people who seek us out. They know we're here. Many of the donors have used the resources of the museum and of the library in years past. And so when they find it's time to pass on their treasures to us, they contact us, and then we go from there.
Do you have a favorite piece, a section, something in the library that really just jumps out to you?
Well, as far as the general collection in the library, it's always been, I think, the most fun for me to work with the photographs. Going back to our earliest image, which is of the Santa Barbara Mission, surprise, surprise, which dates from the late 1860s. But we have another collection that I have always been fascinated with is our map collection, which numbers probably around over 3,500 pieces at this time. And in that map collection, I think my favorites are the so-called bird's eye views, the lithographs of Santa Barbara in the late 1800s, because they're not just street maps. These are actual drawings that show each and every building from a bird's eye point of view, showing each and every building, commercial buildings, private homes in Santa Barbara at that particular time. So they're really a treasure trove of information.
And as the museum slowly reopens, this is available to the public, correct?
Yes, the museum is going to be, the library is going to be reopening in early May, and it's going to be, researchers can come in and do, on-site research through appointment only. And I believe it's going to be, the library will be open Thursdays and Fridays for those on-site visits. And people can make an appointment either, by phone, or they can go online to the museum website and make an appointment there. And of course, the researchers in the library will always be available to answer research questions by phone or email.
And in my previous conversations, Dacia mentioned a vault. Can you tell me a little bit about the vault and what kind of treasures are there?
Yeah, well, yeah, the staff oftentimes calls it the bank vault because the doors are actually from an old Santa Barbara bank. And in there are things, as far as the library is concerned, some of our rarest volumes that go back to about the 1700s. We also have some of our original city directories, the oldest of which we have is a county directory for 1875. And researchers will tell you that those city directories are worth their weight in gold. So we have our earliest ones down there in the bank vault, or what we often call it the vault, because it's a vault within our general collection vaults.
Wow, fascinating, fascinating. I have a question for you. It's what does the day-to-day job of a historian look like at the museum?
Well, for me, it's one, answering research questions when called upon by our museum archivist, Chris Irvin. I also work on various projects. One project that was brought to a halt because of the pandemic, we were doing a research project for the folks at the Covarrubias Adobe out there on East Carrillo Street, and hopefully that will be continuing once we're totally through the pandemic phase of all of this. Um, as far as the uh, well, since I'm semi-retired, I'm primarily doing just special projects. And for instance, I worked on we're going to be having a mobile app um, for museum tours, so people can self-guide themselves through the museum. I worked on that. So basically, it's research questions and special projects. Basically, whatever Deisha asks me to take part in.
And has there been a favorite part of your job or a special project from over the years that really stands out?
Well, when I was a full-time director of research, I think I always most enjoyed um, the research inquiries and trying to find the answers for people. And, through for me, decades, that ran the gamut from, do you folks have anything on Santa Barbara history? To, I remember one question that I don't think we ever actually found the answer, but the one question was, what were the floors of the old Potter Hotel made out of? What kind of wood? But I've always gotten a kick out of being able to track down the answers for researchers.
Wow, fascinating. I just love the library so much. Um, if you could say one thing that people might not know about the museum itself or the library, what would you tell
Um, I think the one thing I would say is folks have no idea about the richness of our collections. Um, as with any museum, number one, we only have so much gallery space, so it's only a small portion of our collections that can only be on actual exhibit at any one time. And as far as the library is concerned, again, it's the variety and richness of collections, whether it's the 100,000 photographic images or the close to 800 oral histories we have, the 3,500 maps, and it goes on and on and on, whether it's government records, the 19th century court records, which we have, which number into the hundreds. Um, it's just an amazing variety of collections, and it's just people I think are always surprised once they find out just what we have here, both in the museum and in the Glen Library.
Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate you joining us today and sharing a little bit behind the scenes. And I hope you're doing well.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you for all you do for the Santa Barbara Historical Museum.
Thank you.
I'm Eric Davis, Executive TV Santa Barbara. This is another episode of 805 Inspires, and I hope you enjoyed actually this fascinating look into the Santa Barbara Historical Museum.